Hello, guys. My name is McGann. I am not a medical professional. I am not giving you any kind of mental health advice here, but I do want to tell you, as somebody who grew up with a narcissistic parent, what it is like when you have a narcissistic parent. And the biggest difference that I've noticed as an adult observing how other parents treat their kids, now I have kids. So now I go to the mommy functions and I see how other people behave, and it's like, man, I had a really problematic childhood that never even registered in my head before. But the biggest issue that I notice is that to a narcissistic parent, you are not you. You are not an individual. You are not somebody that they want to raise to send out into the world. You are their trophy. You are an extension of them. So everything you do had better be perfect. And to top it off, I was an only child, so I had nobody to commiserate with. I had nobody to help take the pressure off of me. It was all the focus on me all the time that I was going to be the smartest, I was going to be the best, I was going to be in gymnastics, and I was going to do this and that. And then at the same time, my mother, who was the narcissist one, would complain that I was doing too much stuff and it was putting her out too much. So she'd be like, oh, you should be a cheerleader, sign up for cheer, be with your friends and wear the cute little outfits and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd do it, and she would complain about every game in practice and go, when is this going to be over? I'm so sick of doing this. I'm too tired to take you. And I'm like, I'm in the 4th grade. You literally had to sign the forms and pay the money to put me in this. But believe you me, she was there front and center anytime that there was a performance or, an award to be given, because she felt like that was her award or that was her time in the sun. Another issue I dealt with over and over again is that you, as the child, as the young person, are not allowed to have emotions. It's apparently very common for the child of a narcissist to be called, oh, so mature and things like that. And it's come to light more and more popularly over the years that the more mature a young child seems, it's actually translating to how depressed they are. And everybody in the world used to comment on how mature and quiet and respectful and everything that a child shouldn't be that I was. And I remember I was not allowed to have emotions, especially if I was angry with something that my mother did or said, because those would immediately be punished. Like, she would bust me, she would stop in the middle of a walkway in a store to just yell at me in public. She would be like, you're gonna apologize to me right now, you don't know, you think you know, and just screaming in the face of a 5-year-old like a psychopath. But unfortunately, it was the 80s, so that was so common, nobody ever cared. But you are taught as the child of a narcissist very quickly that you have to please mommy or daddy, or else mommy and daddy are going to withdraw their affection for you and probably punish you, either physically, emotionally, or otherwise. I remember one time being like 3, maybe 4 years old, and she wanted me to clean up the living room, and I, being a 3 or 4-year-old, wasn't really into that idea. And because I didn't do it by myself, she took all of my toys and threw them away. Now again, some people might be listening to this thinking, well, that's normal parenting. What's the big deal? You wouldn't clean up. I was practically a baby, first of all. Second of all, she could have sat down and said, let me lead by example. Let me start cleaning up and have you help me, not snap my fingers and give a command to a child like she's a dog and expect her to comply, otherwise I'm going to punish her. So you end up becoming such a people pleaser as the child of a narcissist because you don't know what they're going to do, but you know it's going to be bad and you know it's going to hurt you. So the people who are supposed to love you and take care of you and treat you right as a child are the ones abusing you the worst. Narcissistic parents are also notorious to infantilize their children so that you don't grow up and become independent and you need them longer. And I see my mom do this now, even with my kids. I have a 5-year-old son that she wants to drink from a sippy cup and sit in a high chair like a baby. And she did a lot of this stuff to me too. I mean, I can even remember with my daughter like 10 years ago when she was 3, we're sitting at a restaurant and her water tips over. And it's water. It's not that big of a deal. The sky is not falling over a cup of water being spilt. And my mother just starts raging out on her going, see, I told you, you always mess everything up. You make everything off of it. It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. And see, a narcissist does not want you to become independent enough that you would leave them alone. So they train you to become codependent people pleasers. You know, my kids will come to me and they will say, oh, I'm doing this very strange thing. And I might raise an eyebrow, but overall I go, you do you, baby. I don't see their successes or failures as my personal successes or failures. So looking back and seeing how everything I did had to reflect perfectly on my parents, it really screwed me up as a person. Like, I feel like I have no autonomy or way to figure out what I actually want or what to do with myself as an individual because I was never allowed to be an individual. And with the infantilization comes learned helplessness, which is something I am just now coming to terms with that I've been going through my whole life. Learned helplessness is when you have somebody who is perfectly capable of doing something, but the narcissist convinces them that they can't or they shouldn't, or there's going to be horrible repercussions if they do. So the person who could be doing the thing doesn't. They don't think they can after a while. For myself, personally, I was not considered capable of taking a shower at home alone when I was a teenager. And one time my mother came home a little bit earlier and I was in the shower and she kicked in the bathroom door while I'm in the water naked and started screaming at me that I'm gonna come home and find you with a broken neck. What's wrong with you? Just losing her mind. Because at 14 years old, she didn't think I was capable of standing up and taking a shower. Likewise, I was not allowed to use the stove or else I would somehow magically burn the house down, even though I was so mature and people bragged about it all the time. I was just a complete incompetent idiot at the same time. And even though I was perfectly fine to cook when people were home and she never had any problem with that, I would somehow forget to turn off the stove or use it wrong and set the whole place ablaze, even though it was not a gas stove, it was an electric stove, so it's even harder to start an actual fire. Or another thing, we moved into the house that I grew up in when I was, I think, 4 years old. My uncle lived with us for years and years and years, and then he and my mom got in a fight and he moved out when I was in the 4th grade. So I'm 10 years old, and for the first time, because both of my parents work, they valued money over everything else, especially me. And there was like no babysitter would be considered. You know, I was so mature. So I was left home alone at 10 years old, which not a huge deal. There's lots of kids that do it, especially latchkey, but all summer, sometimes overnights, I would be alone. And my parents thoroughly convinced me that if I even unlocked the front door to get the mail out of the mailbox, which was attached to our house, seriously inches from the door, I didn't even have to step outside to grab it, just reach out my arm, that I would get kidnapped if I was exposed outside in any way, shape, or form. And that continued, that I could not go outside. I could not sit on the swing. I could not go play on my playground, go in my treehouse. I could not be outside, period, until I was 16 and I could drive. And that was really the first time in my life when I got my driver's license that I started stealing my independence. And my mother hated that. We had so many fights and arguments, and she'd try to disable my car or steal my keys or make it to where I couldn't get gas. Ultimately, she worked so much she couldn't really do anything about it because, again, she valued money over everything else, and that's probably one of the few ways that I grew up and didn't off myself, because she was an overbearing nightmare when she was home, but that wasn't all that often. And the problem is when you grow up in these environments and that is part of your development, it becomes who you are. That ends up being the type of partners that you seek out later on. So when I got married, I ended up marrying a narcissist who was very mean to me, very violent. I put up with it all the time. And one of the things he constantly liked to do was convince me that if I used the stove, I would end up passing out. I would get so sick from the heat fumes that I would pass out. And so being told these kinds of things over and over and over and over again, you really start to believe them. You think that you can't do them because you've been trained to believe that you can't do them. And it finally hit me when my husband and I were separating after he was cheating on me that I used to cook for myself and I liked what I cooked for myself. So I'm going to start trying to do that again. And granted, it's not the yummiest food that ever existed. I mean, I'm not skilled at the kitchen, but I can make myself some eggs. And I am so floored on the other side of this looking back that I let somebody else convince me that I couldn't. But it all stems back to being a child and you can't do this or that bad thing's going to happen. No, if you do that, this other bad thing's going to happen. It's kind of like this episode of The Goldbergs I remember seeing where Beverly had this horrible, life-threatening story for everything that the kids wanted to do. So it's like, oh, Adam, you want to go swimming? Well, you're going to end up getting your intestines sucked out through this vent like Josie Gordman down the street got. And even the dad got so fed up with it. He was like, who are these people? How is everybody that we know dead? Because narcissists make up these ridiculous kind of reasons and stories and justifications to keep their children or partners infantilized and helpless. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you have to depend on them. And narcissistic parents tend to be really bad about believing that their children are property. My mother told me that directly when I was 14 years old and we were sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office. She told me she owns me. And this was reiterated many times, especially when I was just turning into an adult and starting college, that, well, if I'm paying your college bills, then I get to see all your grades and I get to choose all your classes. And I'm like, nope, no, you don't. Not letting that happen. So good luck to you. Or like how she was an engineer that was super good at math. It was unfathomable to her that I was a dyslexic who could not handle math. And she'd just tell me, oh, you're lazy. You're just not applying yourself. You just need to start from the simple math and work your way up. And it's like, I can't. When the numbers are flipping around and nothing makes sense, I can't. Oh, you don't have dyslexia. You're just not paying attention. I had a diagnosis from a doctor and she just told me it was hokum. So that's just part of the beauty of having a narcissistic parent. They will not believe anything that does not fit their narrative. And their narrative is you're their property, you're their trophy, so you are going to be the perfect shining example of humanity. Narcissistic parents are also notoriously difficult to talk to because sometimes they just like to fight with you and they want to be right. So I will speak to my mother and we will get into a debate or an argument. And if midway through that conversation, I switch and take her side, she will go to the other opposite stance and start fighting for the side that she was just fighting against. It's like the duck season, rabbit season in Looney Tunes. And because the narcissist parent has the mindset of, no, I'm right, my child is beneath me, they're stupid, they don't know what they're talking about, they'll never be as good as me, you get punished for telling your parents things, but then you also get punished for not telling them things. So if you tell your mother, hey, I got an F on my science test, I don't really know what to do, she will freak out and take all your stuff away and call you all of these names and emotionally abuse you. And even with all of that venom and hatred that she's throwing your way, she will not lift a finger to help you understand the material or do better in the future. So when time goes on and you start struggling again, you decide you're gonna just keep your mouth shut and not say anything so that you don't have her freak out and punish you. And then when you get the bad grade and she finds it, you're in trouble for not telling her. Well, why didn't you tell me? I could have done this. I could have got you a tutor. I could have explained this to you. But I tried and you just reacted like I dropped a bomb in your lap. Their grades, they're not that big of a deal. They are not worth your mental health. Gaslighting is also a huge weapon of all narcissists and many other types of people, but especially narcissistic parents. It goes in with the trauma bonding, which I have done other videos explaining trauma bonding, so if you want to check that out and kind of see how that applies to parenting, you certainly can. I talk about it in terms of a regular romantic relationship, but definitely trauma bonding and parenting go hand in hand too. With the gaslighting, and especially with my mother's case, there was so much, I never said that, you're such a liar, you make stuff up, why do you make everything up? And I could have her on tape saying the thing that she's calling me a liar for, and she'd just go, I can't believe you'd record me, how dare you, don't you ever dare record. And so see, the focus gets flipped onto the thing that proved her wrong, other than her being wrong, which is the actual problem. But gaslighting is not just, I never said that. There's so much that goes into gaslighting, and sometimes it makes you feel good. Sometimes a gaslighter might be like, I love you, when they really feel nothing. Or you look and say, man, I think I did such a good job on this drawing. I got an A on this drawing in my art class. Oh, well, that's beneath you. That's so ugly. And I mean, they just make you feel bad. They make you question everything. And they are constantly changing their story to where you want to start filming everything just so you know you're not crazy. If somebody is making you feel crazy about things that you are pretty confident are facts, are things that did happen, or things that you did hear, then that is probably gaslighting, and it is extremely unhealthy. It will destroy your mental state if you let it. It's just bad all around. If you have somebody gaslighting you, cut them off and run. That is the only safe and sound thing that you can do. There's also a huge focus on narcissistic parents and their child's virginity. They want to control every aspect of your life. You, again, are not a person to your narcissistic parent. You are like a video game character. Like, they turned on Fallout and you are the character that they are building from scratch, and that they are going to max out these stats and they're going to make them this perfect avatar of themselves. That's what a child is to a narcissist. And so there's this fixation of their child's virginity and that being pure and goodness, and kind of even them deciding if their child gets to have sex. And I did not have the situation of virginity checks where the narcissistic parent physically looks to see if their daughter is still intact, but I did have so much commentary about virginity being so important, and I'd probably just give it away to some scumbag, and just all this nasty negative stuff that messed up my perception of sexuality for my entire life. And something else that I didn't personally go through as an only child is the scapegoat and golden child issue that almost every narcissistic parent has. My estranged husband had two very narcissistic parents. I'm pretty sure that's where he learned those behaviors as being acceptable and good. But they very much played into the scapegoat and golden child thing. And my husband was the scapegoat, where everything he did was wrong. It was never good enough. It was never worth noting. And his brother, who was a burnt out drug addict who got arrested, who stabbed people, and mommy went and covered it up, he could do no wrong. No matter how bad he got, he was just put on a higher and higher pedestal. So some examples that I saw firsthand was that my husband's children, his children with me, they never mattered to their grandparents on that side. Like, my husband's mother and father did not care about those kids. If they were right in front of them, they would act like, oh, how nice to see you. Oh, so cute. Oh, so sweet. But as far as like birthdays, Christmases, any type of acknowledgement whatsoever, my and my husband's children did not exist to them. But when my brother-in-law had 4 children with 3 women in 2 years, they couldn't spend enough money on clothes and buying baby beds and, oh, how great, look at this picture, oh, how sweet, I love this baby so much. But yeah, they had none of that love to give to my children. And I mean, they were so rude and nasty about it. Like, I could not stand these people. My mother-in-law would call me over to the trunk of her car, and, I'm sitting here 8 months pregnant with a little girl, and she's showing me like 40 different baby dresses. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she got us some clothes finally. She's acknowledging, she's accepting, she's caring. And she goes, aren't these gonna look great on Josh's kids? What? Like, not one of those out of all of these outfits, not one of those could be for the baby that's coming out of me? And another example, I met my husband in high school and he drove this really beat up, I think it was like a 1978 Caprice. It was not a very nice car. It was a functional car. It was fine, but it wasn't very nice. When his brother got his driver's license, his brother was the school year under me, he got a brand new 4x4 pickup truck. My husband was also made to work as soon as he turned 16, and his brother never was. Never held a job in his life, really. And it's not that the golden child has this great, perfect, wonderful life. I mean, getting that kind of attention and lack of responsibility really screws them up. He actually died in his 20s because, mommy ruined him, basically. And daddy helped. But anything he did, he'd be smoking drugs in the house, and his parents would just act like, oh, it's no big deal, it doesn't matter. Like I said, he literally stabbed a kid, and his mother told him when the cops were coming to jump on his four-wheeler and run off into the woods while she took the knife and drove to the river and threw it in there. So, I mean, I just couldn't imagine that. Like, if somebody told me that one of my kids actually physically stabbed somebody, hurt somebody, assaulted somebody, I would not be telling them to get away. I would be handing them over to the police. But it's like my husband, who consistently worked all the time, who earned a lot of what he got, who went through his own struggles. Like, he never got acknowledged. He never got any comfort. It was just like, well, what do you expect? Well, you should know better. Well, you should do this. Well, you should do that. Meanwhile, his brother would not be able to take a step without doing something awful, and he would just be praised and adored for it. And it's really sick, and it messes up both the scapegoat and the golden child. And in some ways, I think as being an only child, I was kind of both. So it's like if my aunt's children were around, I was the piece of trash garbage child that everything was blamed on by my mother. But whenever it came to public functions, I was put on this little pedestal of, oh yes, she's so perfect, and she does Battle of the Books, and she does Power of the Pen, and she does this, and she's so talented as a writer, and she's such a good artist. But that kind of behavior did not exist at home. And that's another thing that is very common with narcissistic parents. When you're out in public, they are these halo-wearing angels that just think the world of you and have nothing but good, positive things to say. But then behind closed doors, it's a very different story, and they're usually very abusive, which in turn makes it really hard to get anybody to understand or help you when you're being abused. Because they go and say, what? Your mother, who was just in the PTA and doing this and this and that and that? No way she's acting like that when you're at home. You're just exaggerating. And now with Facebook, I have caught myself so many times just falling for the same trap with my mother, where I will post something and she'll go, oh my goodness, oh, how can we help with that? Oh my goodness, well, we're going to send you this, we're going to do that. Oh, we're in this together, baby, sweetie, honey. But then in private, she'll be like, well, if you weren't such a stupid slunt, this wouldn't be happening to you. I don't know why you make these bad decisions. This is all on you. Or she'll go right back to, I never said that. Guilt tripping is also a really popular card for a narcissistic parent to play. So the minute you try to challenge them or push back against behaviors that you don't like that they're doing to you, it's, oh, I've done so much for you. Oh, you wouldn't have gotten anywhere if it wasn't for me. Oh, do you know how much I sacrificed to... My mother's favorite example were her boobs. Apparently, before I was born, she had these little tiny perky manageable breasts. But then she got pregnant and they turned into these whopping double Ds, and she got this, belly pooch, and she would pull out her clothes from high school or her clothes from when she was in the Navy and just look at me and go, look, I used to be so small. I used to be so pretty before you ruined my body. Like, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask you to make me. If it was such a put out, don't do it. Or another example here, my daughter asked my mother not to put her in group text anymore because, she has Asperger's, and so getting a bunch of ding, 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 dings, it kind of stresses her out. So when she told my mom that she doesn't want to be in group text, my mother got so verbally abusive, and she even did it in text, in writing. And she's like, oh, you're so spoiled. You're so awful. I should have never gotten you a phone. I can't believe you act like this. I'll just never contact you again. And narcissists love to flip the board and go home because they know they're controlling you if you have to chase them down. So if they say, oh, I should have never done this, I'll never contact you again because you said one thing that I need to to have a boundary, and I don't want to have a boundary. So if you respond with, no, that's not what I want, I'm not saying that, mother, they know they won. They know that they played a power move and that you're buying into it. And if you don't buy into it, if you don't chase them down and say, that's not what I meant, that's not what I want, then within a few days or maybe even a few minutes, they're ferociously backpedaling like, oh, you're being such a bully, you're so mean, I don't know why you mistreat me like this, I do everything for you, and back to guilt tripping. So if you don't give them the power, they will make you feel bad until you give them the power. Healthy boundaries are not allowed. And narcissistic parents are always spinning you in circles. For example, my mother will constantly ask for my 5-year-old autistic son to come to her house for the weekend, and then she will find any excuse under the sun to kick him out around midnight, so that I have to go and drive a half an hour to an hour one way to go pick him up because she's going, I can't deal with him, come get him, he's crying, he's doing this, I don't want to deal with this. Well, he's autistic, he's been autistic, he's always going to be autistic, and I'm telling you exactly what you need to do for him to feel better, but you don't want to do it because it puts you out in the slightest. And if I do anything other than say, okay, I'm going to come get him right this second, then she flips the issue around to me having anger problems. Or last time that we did this, and I was very angry with her because I said, he's got a stomach ache from the sounds of it because you pump him full of junk food the whole time he's there. So let him stand up and walk around and drink some water, and then he'll probably be fine. And so by the time I came to get my son, he was fine. Not crying, not upset, not even staying awake. And I was very fed up. I was not talking with her. I was not engaging with her. Just very gray rock, yes, no, whatever, I'm leaving. And she's going, oh, you're scaring him. You're scaring him so much with your temper, with your anger. I don't know why you're acting like this. He's afraid to go home because he knows you're going to get so mad at him. And first of all, I was not even mad at the child. I was mad at the adult who is a bloomin' control freak idiot. So I wasn't saying anything mean or unkind to my son. I wasn't even saying anything to her other than, yeah, we're leaving, bye. But she wanted to insist that I was saying something hostile and out of line because that allows her to gaslight and control the narrative so that she can run this smear campaign to everybody else that she's the victim and I'm such a bully to her and oh, it's so not right that the kids are so afraid. So I'm the villain and she is the hero, even though she's the one kicking out the 5-year-old. And it's the same kind of control and power move that she does all the time. Like, she will tell my kids all kinds of things that she shouldn't, like what their Christmas gifts are. And then she'll get mad at me and call me ungrateful and other horrible names if I get on her case that, she needs to shut up and stop doing that. Like, she has looked at my kids and been like, oh, the Easter Bunny's not real. This, like, shut up. Let them believe as long as they want to believe. She's a horrible person, but she gets off on irritating other people. So if I don't want my kids to know the truth about the Tooth Fairy, then that's what they're gonna hear immediately. And yes, my mother talks like a grizzled Carl Fredricksen. You would think she eats cigarettes, honestly. Narcissistic parents also like to use money to entice you or control you so that you stay in their lives as adults. And that goes back into problems with the gaslighting and learned helplessness and infantilization that by the time you're an 18-year-old and you should be able to start providing for yourself, you can't. You don't know where to even begin because you didn't get those basic life-building steps as a kid. So as an adult, you don't really know what to do or where to go or how to even start being an adult. And the narcissistic parents love that because they can not only turn their nose up, oh, you need us, but then they get to control you because they'll dangle their checkbook. And that was something I went through with all of my 20s. I had a very hard time getting on my feet because of all the past trauma and figuring out who I was and how I could actually survive as a person. So my mother has always used money as a way to force me to stay in her life. And my dad, I'm really not positive that he was a narcissist. He had some kind of something though. He had a real Jekyll and Hyde personality because again, out in public, sweet, even-tempered Clark Kent type of guy. But you close those doors and he would rage out and throw things across the room if you put his scissors in the wrong drawer. I mean, any little tiny thing he would snap, and it was a huge, gigantic, terrorizing deal. But whether he was a narcissist or something else, he almost never stood up to my mother. And the few times he did, he would either leave me alone with this crazy woman while she's going nuts, or she'd get mad and take me and leave and make me listen as a little kid to all of her drama about how she hates my dad, which by default would have to mean that she is the hero or she is the victim of this story because she's controlling the narrative that I hear, even though I shouldn't have been hearing any of it. I was like 6. But no, if my mother got it in her head that she needed to fight, she was going to be vindicated for whatever little imagined slight, it didn't matter. We would be in a hotel room where I'm in the next bed 2 feet away, and she'd be screaming about wanting a divorce until I would get up at 8 years old and go into the bathroom and cry for an hour because I'm so stressed out at this point. She didn't care about anybody or anyone else's feelings. Nothing mattered to her but her getting hers, if that makes sense. So between my mother being very controlling and manipulative and my father having this very private, explosive temper, and I mean, he would even call me names and stuff too, behind closed doors, of course. Like, he looked at me as a teenager with acne and called me disgusting. Or he would scream in my face and then come back hours later with a gift for me. And so between those two psychos, it's no wonder that trauma bonding is such a familiar process for me. It's natural. It feels right. But back on the point of fighting, my mom would, get explosively angry. I'm never coming back. She would leave and then come back later, never talk about anything, never talk a single thing out. It was just over as soon as she decided it was over, and then pretend it never happened. Because if it doesn't fit the narcissist's current narrative, it doesn't exist. It didn't happen, didn't matter, not important, just like you. And my mother is one of those people where anytime I try to talk to her or say, you did this to me as a kid and it really wasn't right or it really messed me up, she is one of those people to jump down your throat and immediately go, well, you're an adult. You can't blame your parents for what happened to you. You can't blame your parents for your mistakes as an adult. And I'm like, where do you think this came from? Where do you think my brain patterns came from? Where do you think my behaviors were learned? It's like, well, you can maybe blame me for when you were a child, but you can't blame me as an adult. Now it's all on you. It's like, but I learned how to be a person through you, through my parents, through the people who taught me that love and respect are actually pain and abuse. But no, she holds no accountability to anything. It's like the Bob's Burgers song with Louise, where she's going, let's be clear, I did absolutely nothing wrong. And that's my mom. That's a narcissistic parent every time. And so here I am finding out my husband has been cheating on me for at least 6 years. And my mother is all like, leave him, leave him, leave him. And I'm trying to explain to her trauma bonding and how difficult that is and the way he's behaving that's making it difficult. And she's going, well, if you're aware of all this, then it's your own fault if you don't leave. It's your fault if he murders you. You need to just be alone. I never want to see you dating or married to somebody ever again. You just pick out these violent losers. And I'm just, one, how much more victim blamey can you get? I am telling my mother how psychologically screwed up I am, and she's just telling me that, well, you're stupid. Well, this is your own fault. And 2, it is no way her business. I am going to be 37 in 2 days, and she thinks she can still control my dating life. But because of her and the way that she is embedded in my head that everybody out there is going to try and hurt me, I'm on dating sites scared to death that anybody I meet is going to murder me and leave me in the woods. Because that's what my mother raised me to believe. If you even stick your arm out the door to get the mail, they're going to come kill you. So anytime I start talking to a guy and he's like, oh, hey, want to move it to a phone call? Want to meet for coffee? I just end up, cutting him off and blocking him because I get so scared. And I didn't even realize that was an uncommon response until I was talking with one of my friends, and she's like, honey, why do you think everybody's going to murder you? It's like, well, what if I meet them for coffee or dinner or whatever, and then I don't want to sleep with them, so they get mad and they kill me? And she's like, honey, that's not normal. I've never in my life felt afraid to tell someone that I don't want to sleep with them, that they're going to hurt me if I say no. And it just started clicking like, well, why do I feel like that? Where did this come from? And it all stems back to, you can never go outside, you can never do this, you can never do that because everybody's trying to hurt you. And it's all because work and money was so important to my mother that she needed to find a way to keep me inside 24/7 so that she didn't have to get a babysitter. Or that, God forbid, I have some semblance of a life without her involved in it. And that's my beautiful, messy wreck of a life growing up with a narcissistic mother and a something of a father. If you can relate, I am so sorry, but if you're somebody who has been trying to figure out what the heck is going on with my life, where did things go wrong, why do I act like this, hopefully this video has kind of helped you put some of those pieces together. Again, I can't give you any kind of medical diagnosis or, fix your problem, give you any life coaching kind of stuff. This is all anecdotal, educational purposes type of information, but I hope it's been helpful. I hope if nothing else, you feel like you've got a soul sister out there, because you do, and you have many more other than me. So if you feel like your narcissistic parent is toxic and is harming you in your adult life, cut them off. Always do what's best for you first, because the narcissist is always going to do what's best for them first, and that typically involves controlling you until you don't feel like a person anymore. And in my case, I went from trying to people please and make my mommy and daddy happy to trying to people please and make my husband happy, and blaming myself the entire time. And it's only now, after almost 37 years of this abuse, that I'm waking up enough to realize maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not the whole problem here. And that's not to say that I'm perfect or that I've done nothing wrong my entire life, but I have really been abused and traumatized and taught to ignore it. I was taught that it's normal, and that's not okay. And if you feel the same way, it's not okay for you either, and I hope you can fight to fix it. Take care of yourself.